Let's get a first-hand account now of how the president views this Iran nuclear showdown and the stakes of his big meeting with Prime Minister Netanyahu. The Atlantic's Jeffrey Goldberg had a 45-minute Oval Office conversation with the president in advance of the Netanyahu visit. Jeffrey, thanks for spending some time with us. I want to start with what I'll call the trust deficit in this relationship between President Obama and the Prime Minister. He told you this is pretty straight up. I think that the Israeli government recognizes that as President of the United States, I don't bluff. I also don't, as a matter of sound policy, go around advertising exactly what our intentions are. But I think both the Iranian and the Israeli governments recognize that when the United States says it is unacceptable for Iran to have a nuclear weapon, we mean what we say. Pretty clear language there, Jeffrey, and yet, if you talk to the Netanyahu side, they're not quite sure what the president means, are they?
Well, I think this probably moves the ball a little bit in the direction they want to see it go in. But, you know, the president is not going to give them a date and a time and a set of conditions in which he will absolutely, definitively attack Iran. I think anybody reading that language, and reading the plain meaning of that language, understands that what the president is saying, and he's boxing himself in a little bit with that language. He's saying that there's no way I'm going to allow Iran to go nuclear. And in this interview with me, he actually did say explicitly that when he says all options are on the table, he includes a military component. That was the line, a military component to that expression, all options are on the table. So it's a toughening up of the language, I think.
A toughening up of the language. I found this language fascinating to describe this relationship with Prime Minister Netanyahu. The president described it to you as, quote, very functional. This is one of the strongest, most important alliances in the world. Very functional does not sound very personal.
Right. Well, I had said, listen, I heard that your relationship is pretty dysfunctional. So he was coming back with functional. But then I asked him, I said, so are you guys friends? And he basically said, look, we're all so busy with our jobs that it's, you know, I mean, he gave a kind of an answer, which was a true answer, suggesting that they can do business together, but there's not a lot of common ideology or common background.
Any doubt from your conversation with the president of what the United States would do if Israel set aside the advice? The chairman of the Joint Chiefs, General Dempsey, has been out there. The president's very clear in this conversation with you. He doesn't think now is the time for Israel to strike. If Israel were to strike, it would need some help from its friend, wouldn't it?
It might need some help. It might be able to do the actual strike alone. But remember, America is engaged in the missile defense of Israel already. America is engaged, obviously, in supplying Israel with arms and weapons. There's an interesting political dynamic to this, which is that, you know, this is the only area in foreign policy that the Republicans think President Obama is vulnerable in. And the Republicans obviously have been very forthright about saying we think that there should be military action against Iran to stop their nuclear program. So you know, until November at least, it's going to be a little bit difficult for the president to be critical of Israel for doing this, but there will be severe consequences for America if Israel does this. Iran could retaliate against the Israeli strike by hitting American targets. So there's a very, very complicated dance going on, and this meeting that the two men are going to have, Netanyahu and Obama, is really the most consequential meeting that they've ever had, and it might be one of the most consequential meetings that Barack Obama will have had in his entire presidency.
I think that's an excellent point. It's a fascinating conversation Jeffrey Goldberg had with the President of the United States. You want to see the Atlantic to get the full sense. Jeffrey, thanks for your time today.
Thank you.
Still ahead.